Hello everyone, my name is Joshua and I'd like to welcome you back to another episode of Coffee, Cats, and King, where we'll discuss books, both new and old. I will share with you pictures of my cats, will make you wish they were your cats, and I will drink enough coffee for me and everybody watching. So today I decided to try out the Horror of 2020 book tag, which was created by the wonderful Marie McWilliams. I will put her channel down below, link it there. She's an awesome booktuber. If you guys don't watch her already, you really should. Fabulous lady, great recommendations always, excellent taste in horror, and just really cool lady. So, Horror of 2020 book tag. This is 6 quick prompts. Just talk about a book from each one, and it'll make a lot more sense once I get into it. So let me go on and do that. First prompt we have here is pandemic. Talk about a book involving a disease or outbreak. So for this one, I decided to talk about one that I'm sure most of you have heard of, a lot of you probably read, and that is Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. This is an awesome book. Of course, you know, the original story came from the incredible Jane Austen, and this is the adaptation by the utterly insane Seth Grahame-Smith. If you guys haven't read this, it is exactly what you think it is. This was the first of those quirk mashups where they took the old classics and, you know, added in something zany and crazy. There's also Sense and Sensibility and Sea Monsters. There's Jane Slayer. There's Queen Victoria, Demon Hunter, Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter, you know, that sort of thing. But the first one, the one that started all that, was Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. And it's awesome. It actually does great justice to the original in that it keeps a lot of the original text in there and somehow creates this beautiful, cohesive story that makes you think this was the way it was originally written, this was how it was intended. Awesome novel. Check it out, and just looks really cool on your bookshelf anyway. Next up, we have Politics. It says, tell me about your favorite dystopic novel. I thought about going with Fahrenheit 451 because, you know, it's the one everyone's going to gravitate towards for this particular prompt, I think. But I decided to do something a little different, and I went with one of the Bachman books. These are books that Stephen King wrote under his pen name, and specifically I am talking about The Long Walk, which is in this. And The Long Walk is about a future where, you know, things are pretty bleak, pretty terrible, obviously dystopic. But every year they have this competition where younger adults they get put in this challenge, this extreme marathon. It's a marathon to the absolute limit until everyone else collapses or dies from exhaustion or whatever it may be, until you are the last person moving. And the winner gets this fantastic prize. I think they basically get to choose whatever they want. And excellent, quick little read, but great stuff. It's cool because it is very much a dystopic novel, but it focuses in on such a tight little group of individuals, and yet you still really get a feel for, you know, how messed up things are outside of this competition and within this competition. So next up we have Hate. Tell us about a book you hated. So for this one, I went with a novel that I read 4 or 5 years ago. That is Suffer the Flesh by Monica O'Rourke. And I'm not even going to try and explain it. I'm just going to read you the original review that I wrote off of Goodreads. So don't mind me if I'm looking down here for a second. I said, I'm not going to spend much time on this review. I will keep it short and say that I disagree with those who say this isn't just violence for the sake of violence. I've heard a lot about this short novel over the years and sought it out during a period in which I was looking for the most extreme horror novels out there. The idea, of course, was to find the ones that still told an excellent story and had meaning behind them. In my opinion, Stuff of the Flesh fails miserably in this regard. I've read a great deal of extreme horror, torture horror, splatterpunk, watched all the movies. Therefore, I feel safe in my assessment that this novel just does not hold up. Every page is another rape scene. The story in between is hardly coherent and not the least bit believable, which realism is not quite as important as horror as long as you take the reader for a ride and make them believe that it's real. So Stuff of the Flesh, though, just doesn't do that. Scenes jump forward in time without any warning, and as graphic as it is, it's boring because every scene is the same. And that sounds terrible from what I've just told you, but just bear with me. You can only read about a character being harmed in this way so many times before it's just in bad taste. So do as Edward Lee and fuel the violence in a more creative manner. Do as Lehman and make me truly feel something for the characters. Do as Jack Ketchum and take this awful thing and make it heartbreaking, but make it feel real. So, I mean, it bothered me because I should feel something about these women, upset at the experience they're going through, but everyone in the book is so one-dimensional, and no time is given for me to even bother to care. So in all, one of the most graphic novels of all time becomes little more than a boring, repetitious, pointless read. If you're into the extreme, look elsewhere to authors who wield their weapons in a more stylish manner. So that's what I had to say about that novel, and as I was reading the review, I was remembering it, and remembering how much I hated reading it, and I should have DNF'd it, but I finished it because I thought, you know, I've heard about this book so many times, there's got to be something to it, and there wasn't. It was rape and torture, and nothing happens. Nothing happens. It was terrible, it's not worth it, don't read it. Moving on. End Times. Tell us about a book about an outright apocalypse. For this one, I chose one that I have not heard a lot about, but I really enjoyed it. That was Cannibal Rain by Thomas Colinier. Don't know if I said his name right. Can't help it, sorry. This was really cool post-apocalyptic novel. It's your usual setup. It's about a group of survivors who are just trying to make their way through this new world that has been infested with zombies, although I don't think they necessarily call them zombies. They're just flesh eaters, and there's a little more to that, but the novel doesn't focus as much on the action. The action's a big part of it. It is very much an action-driven novel, but the important part here is the characterization, and the author does an excellent job in characterization in this one. I mean, I've felt every moment of pain. I felt every moment of pain that these guys went through. It's brutal and beautiful. There's betrayal. I'm not going to tell you by who, obviously, but it's a great novel, very emotional, and excellently written. Excellently written. Next up, we have Crime. Tell us about one of your favorite crime novels. And I thought about this one for a while. Finally decided that I could not recommend any other book other than Fantastic Land by Mike Bakoven. First of all, this was his debut novel. I'm going to start with that because it had no business being this good as a debut novel. Fantastic Land is about this massive amusement park. Of course, you're supposed to think of Disney in that. The place is actually, in the book, it takes place in Orlando, Florida. And this group of workers there, they're supposed to stay there and kind of batten down the hatches as this awful hurricane is coming through. They're not happy about it, but they're getting paid crazy amounts of overtime to do so, so they all decide to do it. The hurricane turns out to be way worse than anyone thought that it was going to be, and they essentially end up stuck there, stranded. No one can get to them. All communications cut off, and they're left there to their own device for a very, very long time. And what's cool about the book is that it is set up as a series of interviews with the survivors. And I say survivors because not everyone survived the storm, but more importantly, they don't survive each other. Because what ends up happening is sort of an adult version of Lord of the Flies, in that these people who are cut off at this amusement park, they start creating these little clans and cliques, if you will, in order to survive. You know, one group takes over the gift shop, one takes over the cafeterias, and things get pretty brutal. There is definitely a lot of murder, and a lot of the book, these interrogations, are about trying to figure out who is going to be taking blame for everything that went down there. And it's done in a very different way. They're all being interrogated by these police and FBI agents, and you know, you're getting different sides of the story from all around. You don't really know entirely what happened. By the end of it, you get the big picture, but really awesome stuff. I love the way he wrote that novel. He has one other called The Pack, which I have to assume is a werewolf novel based on the name and the cover. I haven't read it. Maybe will eventually. What I'm really looking forward to is if he eventually puts out a second Fantastic Land themed novel, which I think would be really awesome. And now, to finish it up, ending on a high note, we are ending with hope. Talk about a book you hope is going to be good. And for this, I chose Cassandra Claus, Nothing But Blackened Teeth. First thing that drew me to it, of course, was the cover, because, oh, wow. I mean, how can you see that cover and not be interested in knowing more about this book? And so, again, I have on here the little synopsis. It says, a Heian-era mansion stands abandoned, its foundations resting on the bones of a bride, and its walls packed with the remains of the girl's sacrifice to keep her company. It's the perfect wedding venue for a group of thrill-seeking friends. But a night of food, drinks, and games quickly spirals into a nightmare. For lurking in the shadows is the ghost bride with a black smile and a hungry heart. And she gets lonely down there in the dirt. So, awesome. It's gotta be awesome. It sounds great. The cover is killer. And I'm really excited to get my hands on it. I think it comes out in a few months, so I have it pre-ordered. Can't wait to get my copy and get started on it. That was the Horror of 2020 book tag. Hopefully you guys get some suggestions from this. I know I have, watching some of your videos. Feel free to give me some more suggestions that answer these prompts down below, or better, do your own video. Tag me in it maybe so that I know you've done it. I did not forget cat pictures. I will put them in there now. And once again, thank you for joining me. Feel free to add any comments, questions, concerns down below. Cheers, everybody.